Welcome out to Kelly's on Broadway tonight. We're drinking cold beer and it feels so right. I'll meet you out on Broadway underneath Shamrock Light. We're gonna have a good time on the patio tonight. There's a party down at Kelly's on Broadway tonight. We're drinking cold beer on a champagne night. We're feeling all alone and you got no place to go. So come down here and drink a beer on Kelly's patio. Kelly's a fun place to eat and drink. 2902 Broadway.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Daily Muddy. I'm Ashley Conrad. Joining me today, Julie Gordon with Children's Medical Ministries. How are you, Julie?
I'm great, Ashley. Thank you so much for having me.
I am so happy to have you here. So I have a board with my guests, and once I saw your name in the organization, I did a little bit of digging because I want to do my due diligence to make sure I understand what you are doing is incredible.
Oh, thank you.
So incredible.
Yeah.
So you have an amazing event coming up, of course, that I want to get to in just a second. But before we get to that, let's talk a little bit about Children's Medical Ministries and your mission, what y'all are accomplishing over there.
Sure. All right. Yeah, that's great. I'm the president of Children's Medical Ministries. I have only been the president for about 4 years. So Children's Medical has been around for about 40 years.
Okay.
So it was actually founded by a college friend of my mother's who's 91. And I got involved with Children's Medical because they had sponsored several wheelchair distributions that I went on.
Okay.
So I was familiar with being kind of the recipient of some of their donations.
Right.
So what we do currently, we have a board of 5 people, and we are primarily like a philanthropic organization in that we give funding to other 501c3s, meaning a U.S.-based nonprofit that helps children in impoverished countries.
Yes.
So in a nutshell, we give away money that helps children around the world.
Yes.
Children with physical, mental, educational needs, anything in that category.
Yeah. And I love it because, of course, children are so, innocent and deserving, and they deserve everything we can give them, right?
Yes.
And, as a nonprofit, you do rely on people giving. Right?
Yes.
Time, money.
Right.
So I encourage you to look more into that, of course.
Yeah.
And then what you're doing with the Beeline is, it all works really well together, but what you're doing is just, it's amazing.
Yeah, we love it. Yeah, Children's Medical is 100% volunteer. No one gets paid. All the money goes to the projects that we fund. Mm-hmm. And so one of the organizations that we have worked with for years, 20 plus years, is Beeline Wheelchairs.
Yes.
So they have gone through some revisions, and the founder of it, Mark and Esther Richard, came up with this new prototype wheelchair that now they have had tested, like the crash testing, all the different ratings that you need to make sure a wheelchair is safe, and they've got it patented, and they're giving it out to children around the world that need wheelchairs.
Yeah.
So Mark, because I have been around the world with him to a lot of places doing wheelchair distributions, he is coming to Quincy November 11th.
Okay.
And we thought it was a great opportunity to let people hear about what he's doing, what they're doing by giving wheelchairs to children.
Yeah, how they're making an impact. It is a huge impact. So you're having a presentation and a dinner.
Right.
So he's going to come and give everybody a little more information on how they're helping, which is incredible.
Right.
And can't beat a dinner.
Right.
It's
a free dinner.
Cause,
it's a free dinner. That's right.
Yes. So it is, you said November 11th?
November 11th at 5 p.m. at the Crossing Church.
Okay.
So the Crossing has been kind enough to host us. And so we invite everyone to come and just hear about what Beeline's doing. Dinner is truly free.
Yeah.
So we are asking businesses or individuals that already know Beeline and already know the amazing change that a wheelchair makes for a child in a poor country. If they want to sponsor a table at the event for $400, that money 100% goes to a wheelchair.
100%.
100% of that money. So that's the cost of a wheelchair in an impoverished country.
Oh, wow.
Beeline is based in Guatemala. Okay. I've been there a lot of times and worked with them doing wheelchair distributions. I'm a physical therapist, so I use my skills to help fit children in wheelchairs to make sure it properly fits.
Sure.
And so we're going to go down this winter also. We're going to take a team January or February. If anyone's interested in going, they're welcome to go to Guatemala with us and actually see where the wheelchairs are made and meet the children.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. That would be just
it's
so
amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So you're going to talk about that as well, like
Right.
getting people to go on this mission.
Right. So
with you?
we'll
Okay.
mention that opportunity
Okay.
at Mark and Esther's presentation.
Okay.
They are bringing one of their Beeline wheelchairs with them, so you can physically see what this chair is and why it works so well for disabled children.
Okay.
So, I have done physical therapy in the United States for 35 years, and I can tell you this wheelchair is as good as anything I've seen here in the States. It's
Right.
amazing.
Yeah. So now, if people want to host a table, sponsor a
Right.
table, how do they go about getting a hold of you?
Sure. The easiest way is probably just to call me or text me.
Okay.
So my phone number is 618-267-3282.
Okay.
And you can go on the Beeline website, but there's not really an opportunity there to host a table. So
Okay.
if you want to come to the event or you want to sponsor a table, which would be amazing,
Right.
just text me or call me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then also, Children's Medical Ministries has a great Facebook page
Right.
with a lot of information as well about, the mission of Children's Medical Ministries and also Beeline and the
Right.
event. So
Yeah.
I encourage everybody to go out and learn a
Yeah.
little bit more. I was truly blown away by what you all do, and
Thanks.
especially with the Beeline, I think it's just incredible. And to see the pictures of these kiddos, it's just
life change.
You can't
Yeah.
you can't ignore that.
Right.
It's just amazing.
Right.
So,
So many children. I mean, if you're a disabled child in an impoverished country, you can't go to school, you
Right.
can't go to the store, you can't do anything until you get a wheelchair.
Right.
So by giving the children a gift of a wheelchair, you're allowing them to go to school, to have a social life.
Yeah.
It raises their value in their culture because now they have mobility. So it's amazing to see the life change. Like the wheelchair distributions, you will see parents literally carrying adult children and adults on their back into the wheelchair distribution, and the child leaves in a wheelchair.
Yeah. You're going to
It's
make me
huge.
cry, Julie. Quit it. Okay, so
know,
I'm
me
just
too.
thinking, like,
Me too.
of course it impacts the children, but I can only imagine the families that are, just so grateful for the
Right.
contributions. So,
Yeah.
again, I really encourage everyone to go learn a little bit more, sponsor a table if you have the means to do it, at least attend, learn a little bit more about
Right.
how you can get involved, and maybe even go visit. I think that would just be life-changing.
Oh, it would be. Yeah. It's amazing. It's
Yeah.
so good to see how blessed we are, how fortunate we are.
Right.
And, what a difference we can make in someone's life with
Right.
$400.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So-
it's a drop in a bucket. I
Yeah.
love it, Julie. Thank you so much for everything that you're
Thank
doing.
you.
And thank you for coming in and chatting with me.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Coming up next, I sit down with Lisa Wigoda and we talk about safe and livable housing. Stay tuned.
The Liquor Booth is your home for a huge selection of beer, wine, and spirits. The Liquor Booth has 2 locations in Quincy, 3520 Broadway and 1500 North 12th Street. The Liquor Booth, where it's always happy hour.
Welcome out to Kelly's on Broadway tonight. We're drinking cold beer and it feels so right. I'll meet you out on Broadway underneath Shamrock Light. We're gonna have a good time on the patio tonight. There's a party down at Kelly's on Broadway tonight. We're drinking cold beer on a champagne night. We're feeling all alone and you got no place to go. So come down here and drink a beer on Kelly's patio. Kelly's a fun place to eat and drink. 2902 Broadway.
The Tower, a great place to meet and eat. But did you know the Tower has one of the finest drink selections in our area? Along with its incredible Mexican menu, the Tower specializes in tequilas for every taste. Names like Patron, Cabo Wabo, and Hornitos. And don't forget the margaritas. On Mondays and Tuesdays, stop by and pick up a single topping pizza and get Tower margaritas to go. Enjoy the Tower at home or in our dining room, bar area, or the Tower's signature climate-controlled porch. The Tower Pizza and Mexican in Quincy.
Are you looking for the perfect venue for your next special event? Check out Utopia Event Center.
Utopia has a large banquet room and an awesome bar area, perfect for anything from birthday parties to formal corporate meetings. It also offers a photo booth, stage for a DJ or a live band, and a fully stocked bar, all for only $300. Check us out at utopiaeventcenter.com or call Barn at 217-430-6559 for more information. Utopia Event Center, 900 North 12th Street in Quincy. Welcome to the Abbey, a Quincy tradition. With 6 big screens, a new larger kitchen, and now more seating capacity, the Abbey is the place to be before, during, and after the big game. Come enjoy fan favorite appetizers, steaks, burgers, and a variety of daily food and drink specials. Can't join us? Carryout is available too. Now with a convenient drive-up window to better serve you. 1736 Spring in Quincy. Opens at 3 p.m. Tuesday through Sunday. Come join all your friends at the Abbey, a Quincy tradition.
Instant Replay is your local sports bar. With 18 big screen TVs, we have all the sports packages from college games to pro games. We offer daily drink specials, and come check out the Bullpen, our newly renovated beer garden. Instant Replay, 2739 Chestnut in Quincy.
And welcome back. Joining me now, Lisa Wigoda. I think I mistakenly said you were with the YWCA, so I am sorry for that. But you did just get the award. You are, however, with the Safe and Livable Housing Committee. Did I get that right?
You got it.
Okay. So Lisa and I have been talking in length about what we're about to talk about with everyone else, right? I'm really excited about it. But before we get into the Safe and Livable Housing story, I guess is what we could call it, I want to touch on the Woman of Achievement Award that you just received from the YWCA, right?
That's right.
So we can talk about what it means to you. You were pretty humble in the fact, you don't want this to be about you. So I don't want to make it about you, but I definitely want to highlight that because it's quite an achievement, right?
You're so kind.
Yes.
It's quite a surprise for sure. Yes, and I actually feel very affirmed for this award from the YWCA because it was not expected, of course. I hadn't ever been to one of this celebration dinner that they have fundraising every year. So no, I didn't know anything about it, and so then I got an email saying that this had occurred. So it's a great honor because this is it's just because I've been working on a committee called the Safe and Livable Housing since 2018. It's been at least 50 different people from Quincy and outside of Quincy, also Mendon and things, who have been volunteering as when we realized that there were some problems with the way housing is being dealt with, rental housing specifically in Quincy.
Right.
It started in 2018 when we saw a photo exhibit by Steve Bonstadt, who's a photographer at the Quincy Herald-Whig. As a journalist, he started seeing homeless people under the bushes, in the parks, and then he realized, and I think a lot of us didn't realize, I know I didn't realize, number one, that there was a homeless population here.
Right.
But then I started seeing the photographs, and I also didn't realize that all the rental property in Quincy actually wasn't being assessed to make sure that all people that were renting in Quincy were living in safety. And some people would say, well, why does the city have to have anything to do with that? Well, as it turns out, I've learned, the city has a municipal code, and part of that big municipal code, which makes sure our water is safe for drinking, make sure the stoplights and the roads are all working, which we know that's a big project.
Yes.
All of these are big, complex systems that keep a city running. And it turns out there's many cities the size of Quincy throughout the state. And as we researched the committee, we found that most other cities recognize that housing for the people, is one of the things that needs to be checked, assessed, a couple other words, ensured that all citizens, when they go to rent a piece of property, that it is actually safe to live in.
Right. So you mentioned photographs. I do want to mention that, you will be seeing photographs running as we speak, and we can talk a little bit about those in general, of course. But the committee is focused, and you are focused on advocating for renters and landlords alike, right? Trying to make sure that we're all working together to provide safe, livable housing, which is so important. I mean, you have landlords that do it and they do it well, and you have landlords that may not, and then you may have landlords that don't know they're not doing it well. And then you have tenants who are doing it right, and then you have tenants who are not doing it right.
That is right.
And you're not ignoring any side of that. You're trying to bring it all together so it's a little more harmonious, right?
True.
Yeah.
True. In the beginning, when we started, and especially, so the committee has been meeting for 6 years and researching and data and trying to figure out how the system works. But 2 years ago, there was a dramatic change in our involvement with the city, actually, because they invited us to come and be at our insistence, I think, I wasn't involved in that, but at our encouragement, that it would be really helpful if there could be something in place so that when a tenant saw they weren't living in safety, and for instance, I can take one of these reports, just to mention, right now in Quincy, the only way our city can inspect a property is if a tenant files a complaint. So right there's a power imbalance, because if you live in an apartment and your landlord owns that property, and so the tenant always has a responsibility to ask the landlord to make the repairs.
Right.
And then if they don't, as in a case of this report, this tenant then knew their only recourse was to do what the city says and is file a report saying these are the things that are wrong and will you please come and inspect.
Right.
Well, the city came and inspected this property in 2023, and here we go. Lights ran off a cord in the living room and upstairs, wires in the basement hanging loose. And then the city would identify on this letter that they would send to the landlord in violation of this particular code. Here's another one. Light in the kitchen not working, upstairs bedrooms missing, light in violation of this code. So there are codes on the books already for safety.
Right.
And it just turns out in Quincy, they're not being abided by. And so to expect every tenant to file a complaint against their landlord is never going to ensure that housing is safe, because unfortunately what I've seen in my 2 years of going along on inspections, the city will do this inspection. Here's a toilet that's loose, the front door window is broken, the kitchen floor tile is, the drop ceiling is falling in, the window is out of the sash, there's no handrail. This letter to this landlord is all things that he is responsible for. So, but on the form that people are supposed to fill out, and anyone can go to the city's website, there is a checklist of common code violations, and there are also, as you see, tenants have responsibilities too.
Right.
And so when I go into a place and I see the tenant isn't following what they're supposed to do, well, of course I tell them.
Sure.
When we started as a committee, and especially as an advocate, we just kept seeing these violations that were wrong by the landlords. And as I've worked on doing this for 2 years, no, it's everybody's got to do their part, except for that the biggest responsibility in terms of these safety codes when the furnace isn't hooked up.
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Or there's no lock on the front door, or the ground floor windows don't lock.
Right.
These things are the landlord's responsibility.
Right.
Yeah.
And currently, the city is not very involved in enforcing these inspections. Is that...
How can they be?
Yeah.
There's only a couple inspectors, and that same department does inspecting of as a person renovates a place. I know I renovated a building, and they came frequently, and I was glad to make sure that I was doing everything safely.
Right.
It seems that more of their focus is on that new construction and also the renovating construction. But the rental property that it is not. There is no oversight unless a tenant files a complaint.
Do we even know what properties are rental properties in Quincy? Do we have a list or a register of? No.
There is no registration that the city has that is current. And there also, we have in Quincy, we have found is there are many LLCs and real estate companies in town that manage properties for people that live in California and all around the country. Our city has a budget of $90,000. Our inspection department has a budget of $90,000 a year legal fees just to try to find these landlords, to send them letters.
To locate them.
And then they can't locate them, and it certifies letter. The whole time the tenant is supposed to keep paying their rent. The law says tenant, and so these tenants, some of them keep paying their rent, and then they eventually say to me, I have to use the rent money to buy all this cockroach and bug killing stuff because my landlord won't take care of it in the multiplex that they live. Mm-hmm. And then they tell me I'm not going to pay the rent. So then they get evicted. And then that landlord is free to rent that place again to the next sucker that's looking for a place to live.
Right.
Because there is no inspection to make sure that even a place that's been violated so if a place is so bad, our inspection department placards it. I'll tell you one story of a place on 7th Street. It was a year ago, October. The woman, mother of 4 children, talked to her landlord. He wouldn't make the repairs. She filed the complaint. I was her advocate. She also had a social service agency witnessing the inspection. Immediately, the inspection department went in. There was live sewage in the basement. There are children living in that house, by the way. Live sewage in the basement, and one of the support beams that went down to the ground was being held up, and you'll see it in the pictures, by a red car jack that was holding up that post that was supporting a broken board so that family could fall through the floor.
Yeah.
So immediately the two inspectors, because there's always two inspectors that come, they placarded the building, which they put up a red piece of paper that said it's placarded. Within several months, that landlord rented that property again.
Without having
without fixing anything. And then he told, now the people that moved in next, I met them because I was driving by, they told me that those tenants should go to the Salvation Army and tell them that they've been renting for 3 months so that they could get more money from the Salvation Army to pay this landlord more money. And this building was against the law for anyone to live in. I sent photographs to the inspection department at night where you could see the lights were on and somebody was living up there. But the inspection department doesn't have the manpower.
Yeah.
One of the main concerns is that children, there were 4 children living in that house. And so I've been working on this committee for 6 years, and I was in my mid-60s then. And now I'm in my 70s.
Yeah.
So the 6-year-old that was living there is now 11. And the teenage girl that showed me how tidy she kept her bedroom, even though the ground floor window doesn't lock. Can you imagine as a teenage girl living in a ground floor apartment where the window doesn't lock? And the code of our city says the windows on the ground floor need to lock.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, sure they do.
How do you go to school and study when you don't maybe sleep so well at night?
Right.
But we are allowing this.
Yeah. I mean, it's insane to me. I know it's not an easy fix, which is why I'm glad that you and the committee are focused on it. But I do think that, it is all of our jobs to make sure that these things are, that there's an oversight process to hold people accountable on both sides and make sure that there is safe and livable housing. I mean, housing already, from what I understand, is short, right? But then to have housing that is not safe on top of that, and then to just kind of say, well, why don't they just go somewhere else? Well, it's not really that easy, especially if you have, if you're on the lower end of the financial spectrum, we'll call it, right? Like you don't have a whole lot of money. It's not easy to find a place. There also just don't happen to be a lot of places available. So someone who is renting a home to a tenant, it should be their responsibility to make sure that it is safe and livable, and then it's the tenant's responsibility to make sure that that's upheld and that they're doing their part as well. So what we're asking is, because I just want to touch on something again real quick. You said $90,000, but there's also like a quarter of $250,000 that included
in the $250,000 is that $90,000 for legal fees.
Okay.
And I just talked to the inspection department to get the numbers, and $140,000 a year. I don't think any political party of any persuasion or any person, part of democracy is responsibility, right? So when you own property, your own or something you rent, right? It's with the freedom to own property and the freedom to be a landlord, you have a responsibility to maintain your property, right? You would want to maintain your investment.
Yes,
yeah?
Absolutely.
Right. So, but in the city of Quincy, because we do not have any ordinance that has inspections or registration, you can just buy a place for cheap in Quincy, some of these really rundown places, even on the south side, and not really fix them up very much, just enough to put a wall, maybe some different doors, and then you can start renting those places. And that place, as we've seen in Quincy, these places deteriorate over the years. Mm-hmm. Then that landlord leaves it, stops paying the taxes. You know who comes to fix or flatten it? You do.
Yeah.
Radio guy, you do.
Yeah.
I do. All you taxpayers do.
That's what I was going to say.
$140,000 a year of our tax money is bailing out that landlord that made money and walked away.
Yeah.
Now, who thinks that's fair?
Right.
Isn't fair. Plus, wouldn't we rather use the money for, I don't know what? well, beautifying Quincy, more firemen, more policemen, beautification of the parks, whatever anyone in the city cares about, the citizens.
Right.
We are supporting deadbeats.
Yeah. And that's what I wanted to touch on, because I think we should be outraged, and I don't think there is enough outrage. And again, this isn't aimed at all landlords.
No,
you are a landlord.
I am a landlord.
So
I'm a landlord of business property. I've had a tenant. Somebody called me on that I'm not residential, so I have no right to speak.
But you still
I have been a landlord.
And I think you have a right to speak because you've witnessed it all. Yeah. Also, a landlord is a landlord is a landlord, and you have the same responsibility to your tenants across the board. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's rocket science to me. It really doesn't. I love that you are working so diligently to make sure that we, provide solutions, or at least awareness to the general public to say, hey, we should get on board with this, right? So what's the next step to, hopefully coming up with a solution to this?
Yeah. Well, a couple things. I've been thinking we just got to tell the aldermen, or I just have to tell the landlords and well, not the landlords, but the aldermen and the mayor.
Yeah.
But actually, I've realized we, the citizens, elect our aldermen and women. I'll say aldermen as a general, although we have women. So it's really right now on this issue, for the last 6 years as we've been talking to the past city council on this one, we tell them all this stuff, but really they just they got so much other on their plate.
Sure.
They haven't really budged much on it. Maybe they thought they did, and Mayor Trope in the beginning of his term had a small subcommittee to look at the idea of registering places. I will suggest that what we need is starting anew. It would be great to have a new, but we don't want to be mired in too much committee work that goes on for years and years. Let's get moving.
Yeah.
United Way studied this.
Yeah.
Housing was, I believe, the number one issue. Already thousands of dollars have been sent by Great River Economic, GREDEF.
So what's holding it up? I guess it doesn't need a whole lot of, it doesn't seem like it needs a whole lot of red tape or, blah, blah, blah. It's just like, hey, we need to talk about this. How do we create, an enforcement policy that we have to inspect and hold these people on both sides accountable?
We look at what other cities in Illinois have done. I would suggest citizens call their aldermen and say, please, we understand that when there's a cancer in any part of the body of Quincy, Quincy is a body. We all know where our borders are.
Right.
We're this little tiny, even though we're big. So we have some cancer.
Yeah.
We have some decay. We have some really bad filth and dirty and decrepit. And so, but if we can talk and get going on a registration, inspection, and then enforcement, those three things can come together to at least stop the decay that's going on now.
Yeah.
And then other things to study are different aspects of urban planning, what United Way is going to do. YWCA is working with an organization called Quincy Housing Solutions.
Yep.
They've done research. They're collecting donations to buy a house. But we need to look big, and we need to acknowledge out loud that we, the citizens of Quincy, hopefully recognize that now is the time. This decay has been going on for 50, 60 years, and the housing stock in Quincy is statistically old.
Right.
Anything over 60 years old, of course, if it hasn't been maintained, is expensive to bring back up. So there are other aspects of this, but my point is to get an inspection program so we can stop this that's going on now.
Yeah.
Where an inspection happens, this one from 2023, I don't think this place is fixed up yet and livable.
Right.
Okay? And I have watched this.
And how do you follow up on something if you don't have a process or a protocol?
We do not have a sufficient process. The inspection department will tell you that. They need more staff.
Sure.
And the ordinance that our committee proposed 3 years ago didn't use any tax money to get 2 more inspectors on board. Nice. Anyhow, there's a lot to this, but the main point for citizens is to just call your alderman and say, do you care? Will you work on this? And then when a committee is formed, last time it had aldermen. Mm-hmm. It had some wealthy people, which I'm all for wealthy people volunteering and doing their part. And it had a landlord, I heard. But we need tenants. We need real people to be involved.
Yeah.
And we also need people like the people on like our committee, where we have been studying this.
Yeah.
And we are nonpartisan. So we're not out to make the landlords evil.
Right.
We want solutions so that Quincy can thrive. I go back to the idea of we're the gem city, right?
Right.
We are the gem city, the shining gem city. I came here 45 years ago for a photography job at the Quincy Herald-Whig. I came, I saw how beautiful we were, I saw the parks, and I thought, what a beautiful community.
Yeah.
And we still are.
Yeah, we are.
But we've got some, if this were to be the gem like the gem city are, there's a lot of dirt on that thing.
Yeah.
But
there's opportunities for improvement.
there are opportunities.
Yes.
And with excitement and purpose.
Mm-hmm. You can, yeah. I think it can be done. I do think that
Yeah.
we all need to get loud about it. I don't think it's unreasonable to want this. I think that on the opposite side, I'm not sure what would be the reason for opposing the inspection other than having to be held accountable and a $35 fee, which seems to me very doable.
And
right?
that's an ordinance from the last one.
Yeah.
This new one is different, but this isn't one that you have to pass carte blanche.
Yeah.
This is to start the conversation.
Yeah.
But the thing is that why have taxpayers pay to flatten places when if you're charging $500 a month for an apartment,
Yeah.
that's $6,000 a year. The ordinance we proposed 3 years ago was only $35 per unit. $35 for insurance that all the housing in Quincy is going to be safe?
Yeah.
That's a small investment for all of us. Let me say, one thing that you might hear, and some of you viewers might be saying is, but it's the tenant's fault, okay? Let me read this very small poem.
Yes, please do. Mm-hmm.
Very short poem, written by a woman, Kate Horowitz. It's something I saw in the newspaper in a different city. And the title is Nothing is Wrong. Nothing is wrong with the windows, my landlord declares. The windows are functioning exactly as windows should. That it's raining in the living room, the bedroom, the kitchen. That the cold contents of each sill pour indoors with every storm. This is not a problem of the windows, he tells me, but of rain. I understand. Nothing is wrong. Or if it is, it's nobody's fault but my own for living in a place where it rains.
Yeah, that's very emotional. It's unfortunate that, and again, I do want to reiterate that we're not saying it's all landlords. We're not saying it's tenants. We're saying that this is doable on both sides. This is it seems very easy to achieve this, right? I mean, at least if nothing else, start with a damn list of rental properties so that we know who's all renting and if they're insured and if we're,
that would be part of the good that would come.
That's a good
with
start.
A registration, and then it could be on the city's website.
Yes.
That say these places have passed inspection.
Yeah.
And you can trust.
Yeah.
That yeah. So the other thing, and I don't know if we addressed it. The YWCA did their fundraiser, and they do matching grants. They get matching grants from Housing and Urban. It's not Housing and Urban Development. It's well, maybe it is.
The HUD?
No.
Yeah. The HUD and the QHA?
Yeah, and so what happens there, these are funded programs that Quincy will only continue to receive if they get a good pass grade on what they've done the year before.
Right.
So the difficulty in Quincy, though, and the Y told me last year, they have people to rent to and they have money from the federal government, but there are not enough safe places in Quincy.
Yeah.
So there's money already coming to our community that's allocated from the federal government. And so, but because we don't have an inspection process in Quincy for rental property in general, they can't even help the people that they have money for, which means they'll get less money next year, which means our town will go like down, 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 down.
Yeah.
Turn it around. Let's start an inspection process and let's bring it all up.
Right.
We'll bring more business to our community. We'll bring more tax base to the community. We'll have more money to improve the schools. And we can thrive in the future.
Yeah,
of
and
Quincy.
quality of life all
Quality of
around.
life.
Yeah, I love it. I love that you're so passionate about it. I do think it is a very good cause indeed. And it does seem it just seems doable, right? I mean, it just doesn't seem like it should be that difficult. So call your alderman.
Yeah.
Let's get it at least on the table to be talked about, and make some steps in the right direction. I think it can even be baby steps, but we got to get going on something.
You know what, these baby step thing, I know, but I will invite anyone of Quincy or out. Please feel free to view the photos. These are pictures I've taken over the last 3 years of places inside that I've gone to when I've been at inspections with the tenants and the inspectors. Okay, so that's what all those photos are from.
Yeah.
And then also, get in your car. You're free to get in your car and drive around, and especially west of 12th Street, our core community. This is where it's been, because in all cities, a core might be here, but then, growth expands out. And then in this case, we know. And the interesting thing is we are in the district. We know money is being spent for this beautiful promenade.
Right.
People are fixing up the buildings for new businesses. But right in the district goes to 12th Street heading east from the river. Within this district, I can give you addresses. There are places that are virtually, they're unlivable.
Yeah.
I've seen and heard through the door the people that move in and are squatting.
Yeah.
Okay, I've seen the needles. We are inviting this by not having an inspection process, and by any landlord or any person who says, but it's the tenant's fault. I will say to you, the landlords it's about relationship.
Yeah.
The landlords, when they're renting their property to someone,
You're a business owner.
Have a lease. That protects you, landlord. It protects the landlord and the tenants. Some of these leases I've seen, they're 10 pages long. They say things like, the minute that tenant signs that lease, 30 days after they sign, everything that's wrong with that apartment is the tenant's fault. Well, there was never an inspection. This person moved in not knowing they were, you know how it is to have to read 10 pages of stuff. Anyhow,
nobody's doing it.
Some cities even have a couple leases that they say, hey, all you landlords, these are ones that are easy. We recommend you use these. But you can put in your lease that you're going to come inspect every month. You keep a relationship. Don't let your place deteriorate. Keep your person accountable. Right?
Yeah. Well, and I think, maybe I'm off base here, but I think in Quincy, we hold businesses accountable, and I look at a landlord as a business owner, right?
You're
so
right. You're making money.
Why you don't have to have your name on some kind of list or have rules that apply to you as well as a business owner to provide, like they have the BBB, the Better Business Bureau, and you can get dinged on that. I know it's not, necessarily like government, but yeah, people go there to see. It would be really nice if people could say, "Hey, I'm looking at this property. What's the history of?"
And cities do that. Cities have that. They have that because it's provided because the landlords understand for the right and the privilege of being able to do my business as a landlord in this community. I'm willing to play by the rules.
Absolutely.
And we just have these rules. They're already on the books. Nothing new is being required.
Right.
I know that. I haven't looked recently, but to open a thrift shop, every year you pay your annual registration fee for the whatever privilege or the record or whatever the thing that says I'm registered in Quincy as a business, and that is really to start right there is the perfect really easy.
There you go.
It's really easy. That pool of money then goes to hire more inspectors. It doesn't come any from taxpayer money.
Right.
We've got more inspectors, and the ordinance that we proposed 4 years ago, it would have paid for, if that had been done, 6,000 rental units approximately. Quincy doesn't know. The city doesn't know how many rentals.
This blows my mind.
There is no record. They can't give us data.
You should have to have a license.
Of course.
Right?
You have to have a license
Well,
to have
I'm so
a
blown
restaurant,
away.
a massage parlor,
Yeah.
anything. Any kind of
Massage
thing.
parlor.
Well, I know. I don't want to mention that. And on the up and up. Well,
No. I mean, no,
Yeah.
I love it. And I do think, in my mind, I mean, I'm not saying landlords are bad or that they should be punished for, for wanting to provide housing to people and for stepping in and doing this. But those people who are, I'll just call them the good guys. They don't mind doing this. There's a reason that people don't want to do it, right? And it's not because of this is just me, so you can crucify me if you want. It's because of this list of how many offenses here? 23, 26?
16 on this
16.
one. Well, we've done, there was one inspection with 31 code violations. that were all the landlord's responsibility.
Yeah.
So whatever the tenant, and they weren't anything that the tenants did. The letter was sent to the landlord.
Yeah.
And then I saw the landlord in court, and they got their slap on the hand. The biggest fine I've ever seen is $400, but they still didn't fix this. And then they evict the person, and then they go rent it to someone else.
Right.
And then eventually it gets run down, and then we pay 10 to 12,000 per unit per house to flatten it.
And that's after trying to track these fellas down who may be in California and have no accountability to Quincy or the tenants, or it's crazy. It's crazy to me that this even has to be that we even have to ask for this. Right, it just seems like it should be standard.
Normally, no, you're right.
Yeah,
right.
And other cities and states are doing it. Are there cities in Illinois that are doing it?
Oh yes, and oftentimes it does get inspired by citizens.
Okay.
So that does need to happen sometimes. Yeah. And it is happening in Quincy.
Yeah.
There are now 3 different organizations, but also United Way has studied it at Great River Economic. They know. What I say is, don't spend more money doing a study to see if we need it.
Yeah, we need it.
We've spent enough money. We know we need it.
Yeah, we don't need studies to tell us that things are happening and that,
I'm willing to testify.
We just need a Lisa, right? Because she knows her stuff. And I will say that
many people do.
Yes,
in town now.
Yes,
you got that.
Yes. So the committee, of course, is amazing. I think that if the concern is that it will deter landlords, I don't know if that's the case. Maybe it'll deter the ones that we don't want representing Quincy. But
what it will do is give landlords a choice.
Yeah.
Do they want to own property and rent it in Quincy, Illinois? And if they do, then they have. If they choose,
there's some rules.
If they choose to be a landlord, I know, and I'm not working on vacant, because some people will say, but look at all those vacant places. Right, there are codes for vacant properties. And do you want to talk about the square? Our square downtown, how many years, like the 40 years I've lived here, there is property on the whole square that is used as a storage unit. And maybe that's okay because they own it, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But with vacant properties in the neighborhoods that then left with windows open for children to fall in, there are codes on the book that say. So start having the oversight city that you have on your books, and let's all work together. And if people don't want to own property, if they don't want to keep it to code, then sell it to someone who does.
Right.
Why not?
I love it. Yeah, there you have it. Well, I'm totally on board, and I think that, if we need to have our voices heard, we can get pretty loud. So I appreciate you coming on here and speaking with me.
Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure to learn more about this, and hopefully, everybody out there learned a little bit more. And call your alderman. Let's get this. Let's get it going.
Let's start a registration process, and with that. With that registration comes that little bit of money that the business people pay to make sure that not only theirs, but all the property is safe in Quincy for renters. It brings the whole quality of life of the tax base for our whole community, and we thrive.
Yes.
We thrive.
I love it.
Yep.
Well, we could sit here and talk all day about it, but I appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Congratulations on the Woman of Achievement. You absolutely have earned it, and I know that you give kudos to the committee, which I do as well, and also to the YWCA. They're doing amazing work. So continue it. Keep it up. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Have a fantastic day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. I think that does it for today's Daily Muddy. We'll catch you back here tomorrow for Club Muddy.